Hello, welcome once again to Life of Farida's channel. On today's video, we're going to be showing you how I detangle my hair with just one product as well as a story time. If you want to listen to that as well as watch the video, then keep watching. I'm going to time the video in the description on when the story time begins so that if you wish to just go straight to the story time, you can. In this video, I'm going to be using just only the Mega Growth leave-in strengthener to detangle the hair. So while I do that, I'm going to be telling a story. It can be one, it can be two, it can be three. But just keep listening and keep watching, okay? Thank you. So the first story I'll be saying in today's video is called Jack Hannaford. Now, I stumbled across the story online. It's basically from an anonymous writer of English folk tales or fairy tales. So I don't think it's a real life story. Quite obviously though, but let's just listen to it and I hope you enjoy. There was an old soldier who had been long in wars, so long that he was quite out the elbows, and he did not know where to go to find a living. So he walked up moors, down glens, till at last he came to a farm, from which the good man had gone away to market. The wife of the farmer was a very foolish woman, who had been a widow when he married her. The farmer was foolish enough too, and it is hard to say which of the two was the more foolish. When you've heard my tale, you may decide. Now, before the farmer goes to market, he says to his wife, "Here is 10 pounds, all in gold. Take care of it till I come home." If the man had not been a fool, he would never have given the money to his wife to keep. Well, off he went in his cart to market, and the wife said to herself, "I will keep the 10 pounds quite safe from thieves." So she tied it up in a rag, and she put the rag up the parlor chimney. "There," said she, "no thieves will ever find it now. That is quite sure." Jack Hannaford, the old soldier, came and rapped at the door. "Who is there?" asked the wife. "Jack Hannaford." "Where do you come from?" "Paradise." "Lord of mercy, and maybe you've seen my old man there," alluding to her former husband. "Yes, I have." "And how was he doing?" asked the goody. "But middling. He cobbles old shoes, and he has nothing but cabbages for victuals." "Jeremy," exclaimed the woman, "did he send a message to me?" "Yes, he did," replied Jack Hannaford. "He said that he was out of leather and his pockets were empty, so you were to send him a few shillings to buy a fresh stock of leather. He shall have them, bless his poor soul." And away went the wife to the parlor chimney, and she pulled the rag with the 10 pounds in it from the chimney, and she gave the whole sum to the soldier, telling him that her old man was to use as much as he wanted and to send back the rest. It was not long that Jack waited after receiving the money. He went off as fast as he could. Presently, the farmer came home and asked for his money. The wife told him that she had sent it by a soldier to her former husband in paradise to buy him leather for cobbling the shoes of the saints and angels of heaven. The farmer was very angry. He swore that he had never met such a fool as his wife. But the wife said that her husband was a greater fool for letting her have the money. There was no time to waste, so the farmer mounted his horse and rode off after Jack Hannaford. The old soldier heard the horse's hoofs clattering on the road behind him, so he knew that it must be the farmer pursuing him. He lay down on the ground and, shading his eyes with one hand, looked up into the sky and pointed heavenwards with the other hand. "What are you about there?" asked the farmer, pulling up. "Lord save you," exclaimed Jack. "I've seen a rare sight." "What was that?" "A man going straight up into the sky, as if he were walking on a road." "Can you see him still?" "Yes, I can." "Where?" "Get off your horse and lie down." "If you will hold the horse." Jack did so readily. "I cannot see him," said the farmer. Shade your eyes with your hand, and soon you will see a man flying away from you. Uh-oh. Sure enough, he did so, for Jack leaped on the farmer's horse and rode away with it. The farmer walked home without his horse. "You were a bigger fool than I am," said the wife, "for I did only one foolish thing. You have done two." Now on to the second story. Now the second story is quite a common one. It's titled Jack and the Beanstalk. Now I've not read this in ages, so I just felt like, okay, let's just go down memory lane a little. Now I'm starting. There was once upon a time a poor widow who had an only son named Jack and a cow named Milky White, and they all had to live and all they had to live on was the milk and the cow gave every morning, which they carried to the market and sold. But one morning, Milky White gave no milk, and they didn't know what to do. "What shall we do? What shall we do?" said the widow, wringing her hands. "Cheer up, mother. I'll go and get work somewhere," said Jack. "We've tried that before, and nobody will take you," said his mother. "We must sell Milky White, and with the money, do something, start a shop or something." "All right, mother," said Jack. "It's market day today, and I'll soon sell Milky White, and then we'll see what we can do." So he took the cow's halter in his hand, and off he starts. He hadn't gone far when he met a funny-looking old man who said to him, "Good morning, Jack." "Good morning to you," said Jack, and wondered how he knew his name. "Well, Jack, and where are you off to?" said the man. "I'm going to market to sell our cow here." "Oh, you look the proper sort of chap to sell cows," said the man. "I wonder if you know how many beans make 5. 2 in each hand and 1 in your mouth," said Jack, as sharp as a needle. "Right you are," said the man, "and here they are, the very beans themselves." He went on pulling out his pocket a number of strange-looking beans. Sorry about that. "As you are so sharp," said he, "I don't mind doing a swap with you. Your cow for these beans." "Walker," said Jack, "wouldn't you like it?" "Ah, you don't know what these beans are," said the man. "If you plant them overnight, by morning, they grow right up to the sky." "Really?" said Jack. "You don't say so." "Yes, that is so. And if it doesn't turn out to be true, you can have your cow back." "Right," said Jack, and hands him over Milky White halter and pockets the beans. Back goes Jack home, as he hadn't gone very far. It wasn't dusky by the time he got to his door. "What? Back, Jack?" said his mother. "I see you haven't gotten Milky White, so you've sold her. How much did you get for her?" "You will never guess, mother," says Jack. "No, you don't say so. Good boy. 5 pounds, 10, 15? No, it can't be 20. I told you you couldn't guess. What do you say to these beans? They're magical. Plant them overnight and..." "What?" says Jack's mother. "Have you been such a fool? Such a dolt? Such an idiot as to give away my Milky White, the best milker in the parish, the prime bean to boot, for a set of poultry beans? Take that, take that, take that! And as for your precious beans, here they go, out of the window. And now, off with you to bed. Not a sup shall you drink, and not a bit shall you swallow this very night." So Jack went upstairs to his little room in the attic, and sad and sorry he was to be, for sure. As much for his mother's sake as for the loss of his supper. At last he dropped off to sleep. When he woke up, the room looked so funny. The sun was shining into part of it, and yet all the rest was quite dark and shady. So Jack jumped up and dressed himself and went to the window. And what do you think he saw? Why, the beans his mother had thrown out of the window into the garden had sprung up into a big beanstalk, which went up and up and up till it reached the sky. So the man spoke truth after all. The beanstalk grew up quite close past Jack's window, so all he had to do was open it and give a jump onto the beanstalk, which was made like a big plated ladder. So Jack climbed and he 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 climbed till at last he reached the sky. And when he got there, he found a long, broad road going as straight as a dart. So he walked along, and he walked along, and he walked along till he came to a great big tall house, and on the doorstep there was a great big tall woman. "Good morning, Mom," says Jack, quite polite like. "Could you be so kind as to give me some breakfast?" For he hadn't had any to eat, the night before, and was as hungry as a hunter. "It's breakfast you want, isn't it?" says the great big tall woman. "It's breakfast you will be if you don't move off from here. My man is an ogre, and there is nothing he likes better than boys broiled on toasts. You'd better be moving on, or he'll soon be coming." "Oh, please, Mom, do give me something to eat, Mom. I've had nothing to eat since yesterday morning." "Really and truly, Mom," says Jack, "I may as well be broiled as die of hunger." Well, the ogre's wife wasn't such a bad thought at all. So she took Jack into the kitchen and gave him a chunk of bread and cheese and a jug of milk. But Jack hadn't half finished these when thump, 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 the whole house began to tremble with the noise of someone coming. "Goodness gracious me, it's my old man," said the ogre's wife. "What on earth shall I do?" "Here, come quick, jump in here." And she boiled Jack into the oven just as the ogre came in. He was a big one, to be sure. At his belt he had 3 calves strung up by the heels, and he unhooked them and threw them down on the table. "Here, wife, broil me a couple of these for breakfast." "Ah, what is this I smell?" "Nonsense, dear," said his wife. "You're dreaming, or perhaps you smelled the scrap of that little boy you liked so much for yesterday's dinner. Here, go you and have a wash and tidy up. By the time you come back for breakfast to be ready for you." So the ogre went off, and Jack was just going to jump out of the oven and run off when the woman told him not. "Wait till he sleeps," says she. "He always has a snooze after breakfast." When the ogre had his breakfast, and after he goes to a big chest and takes out of it a couple of bags of gold and sits down counting them till at last his head began to nod, and he began to snore till the whole house shook again. Then Jack crept out on tiptoe from his oven, and as he was passing the ogre, he took one of the bags of gold under his arm, and off he peddled till he came to the beanstalk, and then he threw down the bag of gold, which of course fell in his mother's garden. Then he climbed down till at last he got home and told his mother and showed her the gold and said, "Well, Mother, wasn't I right about the beans? They're really magical, you see." So they lived on the bag of gold for some time, but at last they came to the end of that. So Jack made up his mind to try his luck one more up at the top of the beanstalk. So one fine morning, he got up early, got on the beanstalk, and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed. Okay, that's a lot of climbing. Till at last he got on the road again and came to the great big tall house he had been to before. There, sure enough, was a great big tall woman standing on the doorstep. "Good morning, Mom," says Jack, as bold as brass. "Could you be so good as to give me something to eat?" "Go away, my boy," said the big tall woman, "or else my man will eat you up for breakfast." "But aren't you the youngster who came here once before?" "Do you know that very day my man missed one of his bags of gold?" "That's strange, Mom," says Jack. "I dare say I could tell you something about that, but I'm so hungry I can't speak till I've had something to eat." But that big tall woman was that curious that she gave him something to eat. But he had scarcely begun munching it as slowly as he could when thump, 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 they heard the giant's footstep, and his wife hid Jack away in the oven. All happened as it did before. In came the ogre as he did before. "Fee, fee, foo, foom," said his breakfast. Off 3 boiled oxen, and he said, "Wife, bring me the hen that lays the golden egg." So he brought it, and the ogre says, "Lay," and it laid an egg all of gold. And then the ogre began to nod his head and to snore till the house shook. Then Jack crept out of the oven on tiptoe and caught hold of the golden egg and was off before you could say Jack Robinson. But this time, when the hen gave a cackle which woke the ogre, and just as Jack got out of the house, he heard him calling, "Wife, wife, "What have you done with my golden hen?" And the wife said, "Why, my dear?" But that was all Jack heard, for he rushed off to the beanstalk and climbed down like a house on fire. And when he got home, he showed his mother the wonderful hen and said, "Lay to eat," and laid a golden egg every time he said lay. Well, Jack was not content, and it wasn't very long before he determined to have another try at his luck up there at the top of the beanstalk. So one fine morning, he got up early and went to the beanstalk, and he climbed and he climbed and he climbed till he got to the top. But this time he knew better than to go straight to the ogre's house. When he got near it, he waited behind a bush till he saw the ogre's wife come out with a pig to get some. "How forgetful I am, and how careless you are not to tell the difference between a live un and a dead un." So the ogre sat down to the breakfast and ate it, but every now and then he would mutter, "Well, I could have sworn," and he would get up and search the ladder and the upboards and everything, only luckily he didn't think of the copper. After breakfast was over, the ogre called out, "Wife, bring me my golden harp." So she brought it and put it on the table before him. Then he said, "Sing," and the golden harp sang most beautifully, and it went on singing till the ogre fell asleep and commenced to snore like thunder. Then Jack lifted up the copper lid very quietly and got down like a mouse and crept on hands and knees till he got to the table, when he got up and caught hold of the golden harp and dashed with it towards the door. But the harp called out quite loud, "Master, master," said the "Master, master," and the ogre woke up just in time to see Jack running off with his harp. Jack ran as fast as he could, and the ogre came rushing after. I would have soon caught him, only Jack had a start and dodged him a bit and knew where he was going. When he got to the beanstalk, the ogre was not more than 20 yards away when suddenly he saw Jack disappear. And when he got up to the end of the road, he saw Jack underneath, climbing down for dear life. Well, the ogre didn't like trusting himself to such a ladder, and he stood and waited, so Jack got another start. But just then, the harp cried out, "Master, master," and the ogre swung himself down onto the beanstalk, which withstood his weight. Down climbed Jack, and after him climbed the ogre. By this time, Jack had climbed down and climbed down and climbed down till he was very nearly home. So he called out, "Mother, mother, bring me an axe, bring me an axe," and his mother came rushing out with the axe in her hand. But when she came to the beanstalk, she stood stock still with fright, for there she saw the ogre just coming down below the clouds. But Jack jumped down and caught hold of the axe and gave a chop at the beanstalk, which cut it half in two. The ogre felt the beanstalk shake and quiver, so he stopped to see what was the matter. Then Jack gave another chop with the axe, and the beanstalk was cut in two and began to topple over. Then the ogre fell down and broke his crown, and the beanstalk came tumbling after. Then Jack showed his mother his golden harp, and what with showing that and selling the golden eggs, Jack and his mother became very rich, and he married a great princess, and they lived happily ever after. Okay, so this is another story, but it's like a continuation of Jack and the Beanstalk. It's called Jack the Giant Killer. The news of Jack's victory soon spread over all of West England, so that another giant named Blunderbore, hearing of it, vowed to be revenged on Jack, if ever he should light on him. This giant was lord of an enchanted castle situated in the midst of a lonesome wood. Now Jack, about 4 months afterwards, walking near this wood in his journey to Wales, being weary, seated himself near a pleasant fountain and fell asleep. While he was sleeping, the giant coming there for water discovered him and knew him to be the far-famed Jack, the giant killer, by the lines written on the belt. Without ado, he took Jack on his shoulder and carried him towards his castle. Now, as he passed through a thicket, the rustle of the boughs awakened Jack, who was strangely surprised to find himself in the clutches of the giant. His terror was only begun, for on entering the castle, he saw the ground strewed with human bones, and the giant told him his own would ere long be among them. After this, the giant locked poor Jack in an immense chamber, leaving him there while he went to fetch another giant, his brother, living in the same wood, who might share in the meal on Jack. After waiting some time, Jack, on going to the window, beheld afar off the two giants coming towards the castle. Now, quoth Jack to himself, my death or my deliverance is at hand. Now there were strong cords in a corner of the room in which Jack was, and 2 of these he took and made a strong noose at the end. And while the giants were unlocking the iron gates of the castle, he threw the ropes over each of their heads. Then he drew the other end across the brim and pulled with all his might, so that he throttled them. Then when he saw they were black in the face, he slid down the rope and drawing his sword, slew them both. Then, taking the giant's keys and unlocking the rooms, he found 3 fair ladies tied by the hair of their heads, almost starved to death. Sweet ladies, quoth Jack, I have destroyed this monster and his brutish brother, and obtained your liberties. This said he, presented them with the keys, and so proceeded on his journey to Wales. Jack made the best of his way by traveling as fast as he could, but lost his road and was benign and couldn't find any habitation until coming into a narrow valley. He found a large house, and in order to get shelter, took courage to knock at the gate. But what was his surprise when there came forth a monstrous giant with 2 heads. Yet he did not appear so fiery as the others were, for he was a Welsh giant. And what he did was by private and secret malice under the false show of friendship. Jack, having told his condition to the giant, was shown into a bedroom, where in the dead of night he heard the host in another apartment muttering these words. Sayest thou so, quoth Jack. That is like one of your Welsh trick, yet I hope to be cunning enough for you. Then, getting out of bed, he laid a billet in the bed in his stead, and hid himself in a corner of the room. At the dead time of the night, in came the Welsh giant, who struck several heavy blows on the bed with his club, thinking he had broken every bone in Jack's skin. The next morning, Jack, laughing in his sleep, gave him hearty thanks for this night's lodge. How have you rested, quoth the giant. Did you feel anything in the night? No, quoth Jack, nothing but a rat, which gave me 2 or 3 slaps with their tail. With that, greatly wondering, the giant led Jack to breakfast, bringing him containing 4 gallons of hasty pudding. Being loath to let the giant think it too much for him, Jack put a large leather bag under his loose coat in such a way he could convey the pudding into it without its being perceived. Then telling the giant he would show him a trick. Taking a knife, Jack opened the bag, and out came all the hasty pudding, whereupon, saying, Odd splutter her nails, her can do that trick herself. The monster took the knife and ripped open his belly, fell down dead. Now, it happened in these days that King Arthur's only son asked his father to give him a large sum of money in order that he might go and seek his fortune in the Principality of Wales. There lived a beautiful lady possessed with 7 evil spirits. The king did his best to persuade his son from it, but in vain. So at last gave way, and the prince set out with 2 horses, one loaded with money, the other for himself to ride upon. Now after several days' travel, he came to a market town in Wales, where he beheld a vast crowd of people gathered together. The prince asked the reason of it, and was told that they had arrested the corpse for several large sums of money, which the deceased owed them when he died. The prince replied that it was a pity creditors should be so cruel, and said, Go bury the dead, and let his creditors come to my lodging, and there their debt shall be paid. They came in such great numbers that before night he had only 2 pence left for himself. Now Jack the giant killer, coming that way, was so taken with the generosity of the prince that he desired to be his servant. This being agreed upon, the next morning they set forth on their journey together. When as they were riding out of the town, an old woman called after the prince, saying, He has owed me 2 pence these 7 years. Pray pay me as well as the rest. Putting his hand in his pocket, the prince gave the woman all he had left, so that after their day's food, which cost what small spell Jack had by him, they were without a penny between them. When the sun got low, the king's son said, Jack, since we have no money, where can we lodge this night? But Jack replied, Master, we will do well enough, for I have an uncle who lives within 2 miles of this place. He is a huge and monstrous giant with 3 heads. He will fight 500 men in armor and make them fly before him. Alas, quoth the prince, what shall we do there? He will certainly chop us up at mouthful. Nay, we are scarce enough to feel one of his hollow teeth. No matter for that, quoth Jack. I myself will go before and prepare the way for you. Therefore, stop here and wait till I return. Jack then rode away at full speed, coming to the gate of the castle. He knocked so loud that he made the neighbors' heels resound. The giant roared out like thunder. "Who's there?" Jack answered. "None but your poor cousin Jack." Quoth he, "What news with my poor cousin Jack?" He replied, "Dear uncle, heavy news." "God, what?" "Pride thee," quoth the giant. "What heavy news can come to me? I am a giant with 3 heads, and besides, thou knowest I can fight 500 men in armor and make them fly like shafts before the wind." "Oh, but," quoth Jack, "here's the king's son coming with 1,000 men in armor to kill you and destroy all that you have." "Oh, cousin Jack," said the giant, "this is heavy news indeed. I will immediately run and hide myself, and thou shalt lock both and bar me in and keep the keys until the prince is gone." Having secured the giant, Jack fetched his master, when they made themselves heartily merry, whilst the poor giant lay trembling in a vault under the ground. Early in the morning, Jack furnished his master with a fresh supply of gold, and silver, and then sent him 3 miles forward on his journey, at which time the prince was pretty well out of smell of the giant. Jack then returned and let the giant out of the vault, who asked what he should give him for keeping the castle from destruction. "Why," quoth Jack, "I want nothing but the old coat and cap, together with the old rusty sword and slippers which are at your bed's head." Quoth the giant, "You know what you ask. They are the most precious things I have. The coat will keep you invincible. The cap will tell you all you want to know. The sword cuts asunder whatever you strike, and the shoes are extraordinarily swift. But you have been very serviceable to me. Therefore, take them with all my heart." Jack thanked his uncle and went off with them. He soon overtook his master, and they arrived at the house of the lady the prince sought, who, finding the prince to be a suitor, prepared a splendid banquet for him. After the repast was concluded, she told him she had a task for him. She wiped his mouth with a handkerchief, saying, "You must show me that handkerchief tomorrow morning, or else you will lose your head." With that, she put it in her bosom. The prince went to bed in great sorrow, but Jack's cap of knowledge informed him how it was to be obtained. In the middle of the night, she called upon her familiar spirit to carry her to Lucifer. But Jack put on his coat of darkness and his shoes of swiftness, and was there as soon as she was. When she entered the place of the old one, she gave the handkerchief to old Lucifer, who laid it upon a shelf. Whence Jack took it and brought it to his master, who showed it to the lady next day, and so saved his life. I'm going to summarize this part. So basically, she set out another task for the prince to accomplish, and with Jack's help, everything was sorted out and the enchantment was broken, and the lady appeared in all of her beauty. The lady and the prince were married the next morning, and soon after went to the court of King Arthur, where Jack, for his many great exploits, was made one of the knights of the Round Table. Another summary is here. So basically, Jack destroyed the giants, and in the morning of the following week, after a lot of battle, Jack arose and put on his invincible coat and magic cap and shoes and prepared himself for the fray. Now when he had reached the top of the mountain, he soon discovered the 2 fiery griffins, but passed them without fear because of his invincible coat. When he had got beyond them, he found upon the gates of the castle a golden trumpet hung by silver chains, under which these lines were read: "Whoever shall this trumpet blow shall soon the giant overthrow, and break the black enchantment straight, so all shall be happy in a happy state." Jack had no sooner read this, but he blew the trumpet, at which the castle trembled to its vast foundations, and the giants and conjurers were in a horrid confusion, biting their thumbs and tearing their hair, knowing their wicked reign was at its end. Then Jack stooped to take the club. Jack at one blow cut off his head, whereupon the conjurer, mounting up to the air, was carried away in a whirlwind. Then the enchantment was broken, and all the lords and ladies who had so long been transformed into birds and beasts returned to their proper shapes, and the castle vanished away in a cloud of smoke. And after all was done, the king bestowed on Jack a noble castle with a very beautiful estate and his daughter for marriage, where him and his lady lived a great joy and happiness all the rest of their days. The end. Thank you guys so much for listening to all my stories. Please, I'll need more ideas on what you guys would like to listen to, stories and all that. We've come to the end. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.